Welcome to the Flower Lounge, a place for conversations with wildly creative people and a little plant-loving wisdom to help you experience life in full bloom. I'm Katie Hess, flower alchemist and founder of LOTUSWEI, and I believe in a world where we're all living at our personal edge. Welcome to the Moonshine episode, and this is Kristina Wingeier, our astrologer, holding an enormous bouquet of sweet pea flowers. So appropriate.
They smell amazing.
You got those at the farmer's market?
There's a farm stand here that is amazing, and they have beautiful organic and pesticide-free produce, and they also partner with other farms locally. So you can go down to the farm stand, and right now what they have is a bag of produce every day, like for $20, all this produce. And then
that's so perfect.
And you can add on stuff. I added on strawberries and sweet peas because, yeah. So it's quite abundant. It was Earth Day yesterday when I went up there, and I just got so much produce and so much beauty. And
wow, yeah. That is so smart. You know, we have a farmer's market. We have farmers markets are going strong here in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what other places of the world, but
they're strong.
And it's so wonderful. Oh my goodness. I've been buying edible flowers every week and just tossing them on salads.
I've been eating salads because it's been really warm here this week. I know it's not that warm compared to where you live, but it's in the upper 70s, and it's southwest facing in my home and not insulated, so it gets pretty hot in here in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've transitioned to the salads too. It's like, this week is like summer's coming, and it's
coming. And you know what? May begins with a cross-quarter holiday, Beltane, which is halfway in between equinox and summer solstice. So we really are in this month of May entering into that, like we're shifting gear in the Northern Hemisphere and really accelerating. We're doing a lot of gear shifting this month, actually.
It's supposed to be 100 degrees here, Kristina.
Today?
This week.
Well, it's supposed to be 80 something here. It's pretty good. For the coast, you know.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe the places.
I'm not really fond of 100 degree weather, to be honest with you. It's a little much for me.
I know, we're all going outside, getting out while we can here.
Did you get into the water anywhere?
Yesterday for Earth Day, we went to Salt River, and that was so fun. Oh my God.
How far is that from where you are?
About 30 minutes.
That's not bad.
Super close.
There's a trash truck out there. Sorry, it's trash day. What are you going to do? It's trash day. Take out the trash.
Take out the trash. You know, I was going to say, there's some things I noticed in the last few days, and I wanted to ask if you thought that was Taurus-ish.
What have you noticed, darling?
Well, usually I'm pretty disciplined about food, and I tend to avoid sugar, dairy, wheat, right? The other night I was like, so itchy about something, and somebody had some mint chocolate ice cream right in the freezer, like full on dairy.
Give it to me. That's
sugar. And I was like, why am I eating this? I kept eating it. I thought, this is the Taurus. This is the Taurus coming in here.
Totally. It's all sensory pleasure, you know, and really the body as a vehicle for, you know, experiencing the pleasures of this earthly realm and connecting with the divine blueprint behind that, right? That's creating the pleasure, right? I mean, I think in Tantra, from what I understand, it's like eros and desire is where creation comes from, and that's pleasure in oh so many ways, right? So definitely Taurian for sure. And plus, you know, Venus, the ruler of Taurus, is definitely in a situation where she's not behaving as normal because she's getting ready to do her retrograde, which only happens once every 18 months. And so that, you know, the ruler of that sign is acting a little differently than she might normally in Gemini, where she might be able to maybe talk you out of it, you know, that in your mind, like, I don't need this dairy. I'm going to have a mucusy nose the next day. It's more like, I think ice cream is what I need. So. Yeah. Shall we jump in? Are we already in? Are we in the water?
Are we what?
Are we in the water? What are we spraying with today? We on video? Like, I think this is our video debut after how long have we been doing this show?
In a cave, right?
Unreal. 80s hair don't care. So here we go.
We grew up in the 80s.
I did.
Right.
I graduated high school in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, I just got a funny text. I'm wearing this onesie because it's super hot here and it's got all these little bees on it. And somebody just texted me, was like, "You're a bumblebee. No, you're a wasp. No, you're a hornet. Stay back." I'm like, true, 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 depending on my mood. Anyway,
It's very
how are
cute.
you?
Cute and springy summery. I'm good. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Did you have a good new moon?
It was wonderful. Yeah, we went to the Salt River. We did Earth Day, moon, new moon, Earth Day celebration, offerings to the earth, flower petals and smoke, and it was so nice. We did a sunset meditation after that. It was just, so wonderful. It's like, forget how nice it is to get out of the city for a minute.
That sounds just divine. That's beautiful. I'm going to spray a spray. What were you spraying?
I just had joy juice. I lately can't get enough joy juice. Joy juice, wild abundance, expansive presence. It's like my
Sprays?
support trio.
I'm really digging, of course, expansive presence, the elixir, and then that crown flower is pretty phenomenal. And of course, the cacao that we're going to work with in May. I always go a little early on the flower evolution. When the sun moves into the next sign, I usually move ahead. So that's my blend right now internally. And then I've been doing the protocol that Erin Borbet, is that how I say her last name?
Mm-hmm.
That acupuncture point protocol with the anointing oils, which is kind of phenomenal how quickly that will shift you. It really worked. I was in such a different state, and then the first time I did it, and I was very intentional about working with all the points, and I really felt this energetic shift in me that really kind of just, it felt like some kind of veils that were surrounding me, or some kind of energetic fabric almost just kind of fell away, and something emerged that was there already, which was really cool.
Wow.
What's been your experience with that?
I just love taking the moment, to do that. Like, it doesn't take that much time, but it's such a nice little ritual. And then usually I put the anointing oils on my wrists, right? And this is just like so silly, but when you put it up here on your chest, you can really smell them. So then you're in this cloud of yumminess. It's just decadent. It's like such decadence.
Taurus, Venus, May. May is the 5th month.
May Day.
Joy juice. Beltane, right? That is a decadent, delicious fertility celebration. The maypole, right? The dance around the maypole. You can just do your interpretations of what that's really representing. But it is the fertility and the, abundance of fertility of the earth. And it's really one of those cross-quarter holidays that marks time by the solar earth year. And it's an important one. And it's a lovely way to begin the month. I'm quite partial to May because my birthday's in May. So, I'm just partial to the month. And this month is really very interesting astrologically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one, I think.
Let's get into it.
All right, May 1st, Beltane spoke about that. So we're on week 1. I don't have any themes. I'm working on 5 hours of sleep here because I was up till 2. So you're going to be the theme master today.
We'll develop them as we go.
Themes are going to move through you, okay? So we're going to begin the aspects, the weekend. Why does it say Sunday, May 3rd and Monday, May 1st? No, that's just not right. Okay, Friday, May 1st. The month begins on the Friday. That's Venus Day. It's Beltane. Beautiful, right? And then the first aspects we're going to talk about are that weekend, Sunday, May 3rd. And what we have today is Venus in Gemini, where she's been for a while, and she will be until the beginning of August. Okay, this is a long transit of Venus in Gemini, making her first square to Neptune in Pisces. There'll be 3 of these. And so the things to think about with this are Venus is the love principle, right? Venus is love, Venus is money, Venus is magnetism. Venus is getting ready to do a review, going into a retrograde cycle, which ends her larger cycle and then will begin her new cycle. So she's really in a place of kind of metamorphosis, beginning to shift and shape shift in Gemini. And the squares are always these points of tension and friction that invite in a new perspective. And the square is to Neptune, which is a planet that dissolves boundaries, that can also bring confusion, it can bring transcendence, it can bring mysticism, but it can also bring confusion and feeling foggy in Pisces. And so this is like this kind of dream state of the heart and what is love and what is connection. And then Venus is starting to get in that review mode about, well, what is love? What do I love? How is the connection between my heart and my mind? And what are my values, right? That's just this square energy. And this can be confusing, like you feel like your kind of idealistic expectations maybe about all of the things that Venus represents. You're being confronted with the illusion of the expectation, and that will be frustrating and hard to maybe look at, but there's an opportunity to dissolve some kind of boundary that actually keeps you from a more, I'd say, embodied loving space. So we're kind of doing this pre-game with Venus square Neptune. And this will be three hits of this, right? She'll square Neptune again on the 20th of May when she's retrograde. And then they'll make a final square on July 27th with Venus direct and Neptune retrograde. So this is a longer kind of arc to consider in the Venus retrograde journey. I would look at Gemini and Pisces in your chart and look at the house topics for you to understand what's happening for you, because that's going to make the retrograde. Venus retrograde is a very personal experience. This is a personal planet. She doesn't go retrograde that often. So that's the beginning of the month, really, with the aspects. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, could we do just a real quick sample of, I don't know if you have access to my chart, but like when you say, look at the Gemini and Pisces and the house topics, or your chart for that matter.
I'm not pulling up my chart. Astrologer never reveals her true hair color. No, I'm kidding. This is my real hair color. Don't worry. Very gray. Okay, so for you, my dear, you have got Gemini as a third house.
Third house.
Communication patterns. This is the ways that you think, and that, really ways that were taught to you or in kind of downloaded into your system as a young person, because this house has a lot to do with lower education, our elementary education system, and we learn a lot at that point. We learn how to communicate, and it's also really about daily communication. So when you talk to your UPS driver, when you talk to the people that you work with all the time, the people at the cafe, this like the third house, or those kinds of conversations, right? And then for you, Pisces is the 12th house. And this is the house in the chart that is a house of rest and rejuvenation and retreat and spiritual practice. It's one of called the hidden houses. It's a tricky little house. It can feel very isolating up there. In traditional astrology, sometimes they call it the house of self-undoing. And you and I are both 12th house suns. So that's why we like the things that we like. The kind of hidden realms and the meditative realms and all of that stuff. We don't mind taking some downtime for ourselves to kind of touch in with that. So there's some kind of, square energy between you're taking a time out and all of the communications in your day-to-day life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Okay, so for those listening, you can go to Cafe Astrology. Where's the one you always send them to?
Astro.com.
What is it called again?
Astro.com.
Astro.com.
It's a really good website.
Okay, pull your chart, look for Gemini and Pisces, see what houses they're in, and then you can look up what the houses are. Or you can just call Kristina and get a reading. But
yes, get a reading. The way that I read charts is whole sign houses. So if you want to follow along the way that we're following along, just pick that house system when you cast. And maybe sometime we can do a little episode where I do a little tutorial to show you how to use astro.com, and we can share it with the viewers so they can go in there, because you can do a lot of things on that free website. You can put a lot of asteroids in there and things. It's pretty cool. I love it. All right. So that's an example, right? And that's specific to Katie's Aries rising chart. If you're an Aries rising, you might have a similar thing going on. Well, they can figure that out if I say Gemini is your third house.
Okay, moving on.
Monday, May 4th is a pretty big day. A couple of reasons. We've got a Mercury Cazimi.
Yay!
It's the trend. Lots of bottles. This is when the Sun and Mercury make their conjunction that is not retrograde. And so this is a moment where Mercury is getting a download from the Sun, and kind of a cosmic download, because Mercury is on the far side of the Sun from our point of view. And it's a great time. It's happening in Taurus, of course, because that's the sign the Sun is in. And it's a really good day for communication, for insight, for journaling, for listening. Well, since it's in Taurus, I would say like listening to your body, right? The body is wisdom, the body is guidance. And the Kazimis, whenever these planets are exactly conjunct, it's said that the planet that's exactly conjunct the Sun has the ear or the audience of the king, because the Sun is the king. So you can make a wish, right? You can petition the Sun in Taurus in that part of your chart. So that's beautiful energy. And then also something pretty big happens. Are you ready? Ready? The North Node and South Node change signs Monday night. So it's like 11:15 on the West Coast. So it's moving it into the next day for people. And for all those astro geeks out there, or astro nerds, you choose your name. I'm using the true node, not the mean node. The mean node's just too nasty. No, I just like precision. So yeah, so we're going into a whole new 18-month cycle. This is through the 18th of January, 2022, right? 18 months.
Wow.
This is when the nodes move through. North node in Gemini, that's the growth, right? That's what we're pulling in. And South node in Sagittarius, that's what we're letting go of. That's what we're giving back, right? And they're a pair. They always travel exactly opposite, and they are points. They are not physical bodies. They are energetic. They're meeting points where the moon's orbit and the sun's path intersect, right? So it's a big deal in your life, because those houses where you have Gemini and Sagittarius, that axis is getting some opportunity for change, right? In this next 18 months to grow and evolve your Gemini area, whatever that is in your chart. So for you, third house, right? The communications, the daily communications. And then the ninth house, or we'll just say Sagittarius, South Node, letting go, giving back, releasing. And for the collective, what this is really about is letting go of the need to know the one truth, right? Sagittarius energy, while wonderful and philosophical and seeking, can get very fixated on ideology, right? And knowing the truth and having the one God kind of thing, right? And the zealotry and kind of blind faith. And with the North Node in Gemini, which is very much about kind of dissecting things, asking questions, it's like a puzzle that you want to kind of pull apart and put together in a new way. We're really being invited, again, ask good questions, look for new perspectives. Don't just believe something, question your own beliefs, right? Lining up with the Venus in Gemini, the retrograde, we're really questioning our values around love and abundance and magnetism during this Venus retrograde that starts this month.
I love it. Sounds so perfect for right now.
It is perfect. The cosmos is working forever in our favor, believe it or not. Might not feel that way. So what do you think about that? This means, this means we're going to start getting Gemini and Sagittarius eclipses. We'll start with a very, very, very subtle one this eclipse season in the summertime. But by the fall, we'll be done with the Cancer Capricorn eclipses and fully into Gemini and Sag eclipses. So
whole new fresh energy.
Very fresh. Very fresh. Any thoughts on that, my dear?
I just think it's perfect timing. It's just such perfect timing. Like for just in terms of like everything that's going on in the world, being able to question what's happening, look at all the different angles, so many people sharing different things on social media and videos. And I find it all very interesting that, like you said, that it's a time to let go of one truth. There are many things that can be true at the same time.
Absolutely. And that really just depends on the perspective that you're taking, you know, like, and if people can, yeah, the truths, many things can be true at the same time because everybody can have their own truth. Why do we have to have this consensus of one truth?
Also, too, that was one of the big themes with Crown Flower was like letting go of dualism and this dualistic, like right, wrong, black, white, evil, good, right? And I think we've seen a lot of that recently where it's like, you should stay inside, don't go outside, but go outside. But, like there's just like a lot of conflicting information that gets really fixated and solid. And so this sounds like a big shakeup of just, not being so extreme.
Yes, questioning things. I think then that the crown flower would be a lovely continued support for this time when the nodes are transiting through these signs. Then sounds like could be
Mm-hmm.
so. Thank you, crown flower, for making an appearance at this
I know.
time. We need
So
you.
lucky.
Yeah, it's a big shift. We've got a lot of shifts this month. A lot of things there's a lot of change up this month, and
Good.
that's a pretty big one. And then by Thursday we've got the full moon in Scorpio. Let me look at this chart because I'm really in a funny place today where I'm kind of
Flying by the seat of your pants.
flying by the seat of my bumblebees. Yeah. So full moon in Scorpio is intense because it's Scorpio,
Right.
right? We're working this lunar cycle. We had the new moon in Taurus, full moon in Scorpio. That is fixed energy, right? The nodes are moving into this mutable energy. They want to change things. And this lunar cycle that is happening is with fixed, stable energy. And so with the Scorpio, we've got fixed water, which is often just like very intense emotional stuff that can be with the Scorpio moons. And especially with the full moon, I would say kind of bringing up things that are hidden or really kind of pulling in things, pulling up things that are shadowy material. And, the Scorpio energy can get a little obsessive sometimes. And so you're really going to want to watch kind of like, why I would just watch your emotions and kind of what you're fixating on in what information you're taking in and how it's really affecting your emotional body, right? Because Scorpio energy is also major detective energy, like really wants to get to the bottom of things and is pretty much like a pit bull with a bone. You can't get it out of the jaw. It's just so tenacious. And yeah, it's trining Neptune. So that it's going to do one of two things or one of a million things. It's going to either like soften the edge or it's going to push you to the bottle. Or both. Sometimes the bottle softens the edge. What do you do with Scorpio moon rituals?
Well, I just was thinking that I realized the other day that so many things happen at LOTUSWEI during Scorpio times.
So in like November times in the fall?
Yeah. And so
This
I
is
love,
6 months later for that.
right. But here's my thinking pattern is like we launched the book, we launched the flower lounges, the retreats. So many things happen in Scorpio for us. And May is the first time in 5 years that we're really making our Flower Revolution program super open to the public. We're designing 2 different subscriptions. The whole thing is kind of like being tweaked and changed so that more people can be included because we were sort of like secretive and exclusive.
Such a cool club.
It's happening right near full moon in Scorpio. It's wonderful. It's like to me, it feels like such a great time to do inner work. Is that right?
Yes, and like you're also bringing something that's been more hidden to the light, right? You're bringing something that's felt secretive, or you couldn't quite get to it, or you didn't know how to do it. It felt kind of esoteric, maybe. And now you're making it more accessible, which is very much Sun in Taurus. Like we want everybody to have their bag of LOTUSWEI goodies at hand, right? To support the
Right.
huge changes that are happening in our systems and on the planetary system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool. There's also a really sweet aspect between Mercury and Neptune, Mercury and Taurus, Mercury the communicator, right? Mercury the mind, and it's one of those little sextiles. So it can help you embody whatever is coming up that you're revealing, and especially with Scorpio, like what you're shedding that's no longer needed. If there's, because Scorpio in the body rules like the reproductive and the system and the colon, so it's like sex and shitting. Sorry, now it's F. What do you call it? Rated. I'm so tired. So it's like letting go and birthing, and when you need to birth something, you need to be able to let go, right? And move it out. So it's pretty cool. I like that Mercury aspect to Neptune that's woven in. It can help you integrate it in your body, I feel like, since it's in Taurus. Mind body integration. And there's just some real, I'm looking at the chart, and there's just some cool goddess energy happening, not really affecting the full moon, I would say, but I'm just watching Venus move slower and slower in the chart. She's going to station retrograde this next week after the full moon. And there's also a couple of asteroids. Vesta, the asteroid of sacred devotion and the sacred flame, and Hygeia, which is the asteroid that is about hygiene and prevention and health, all with Venus. And this is really inviting you to notice what you devote your energy to, especially in the mind and like kind of mental hygiene. It's going to be a big theme, I feel like, for this retrograde, like clearing out, your mind and your values and your belief systems. That North Node moving in there really highlights that. It's just drawing my eye as I'm looking at this full moon chart. I could go on and on, but if you want more on the full moon chart, just come join my moon club, because I do videos where I talk quite a bit about each of these major lunations. All right, so that's Thursday, May 7th. And then, Mercury continues making connections throughout the week, Saturday and Sunday. So Mercury again is in Taurus and makes these trines to Pluto and to Jupiter, which are very much about, Pluto is the lord of the underworld. Pluto is retrograde. So it also lends to like, what are we excavating? What are we digging up? Of course, it's all in Capricorn. We know that Capricorn has been a very active part of the chart. And Pluto is also a great transformer. And this is definitely, the letting go energy, so you can regenerate something. And so there's some kind of connection coming through with Mercury, getting some nice flows with Pluto and Jupiter, which is an expansive planet that wants you to grow your wisdom. Jupiter is also very slow. So there's like this steady quality that we can tap into with Mercury that's coming through the body, mind, right? Taurus. And then Saturn stations retrograde on Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on where you live. So there's this intensity of the full moon, right? And then there's this kind of steadiness and this ability to kind of get some information from the steadiness of these outer planets that are very slow. So they're holding energy. I always think about it like if you're in yoga and you have to hold a pose. You know what I mean?
Oh God, no. Please let it not be downward dog for 5 minutes straight.
Oh, right? At all my wrists. Life is kind of like holding the pose sometimes, like when we're challenged, right? And so if you're feeling challenged by the energy, there's some stability there if you want to find it, right? Lean into that instead of the cray, because there's going to be plenty of crazy and disruption.
The earth is real stable.
Unless it's an earthquake.
True.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, but the earth is stable. Fundamentally, foundationally, the earth is very stable. The great mother is always there beneath our feet, right? Always, 100%. And she got to move sometimes and dance. What are you going to do? So that's throughout the weekend. And then week 2 in May, which begins on Monday, May 11th. We had Scorpio full moon, a little crunchy. This is kind of a crunchy week. I'm just going to say it now. This is your marathon week, not your sprint, because this is the week that we're on the heels of the full moon. Saturn is stationing retrograde. And that's through the end of September. And so there's kind of a review of responsibilities, a performance review, shall we say, of Saturn. Saturn right now is in Aquarius and will then retrograde back into Capricorn. So you're kind of going back for a review and then moving forward at the later in the year. And then Mercury on Monday moves signs, moves into Gemini. So we got some more Gemini energy. The mind gets quite active. Mercury is in the ruler of Gemini, very strong mind, Mercury, questioning, communication, situation going on through May 28th. So for a big chunk of the month. And you'll notice that Mercury is moving fast right now, right after the Cazimi. So Mercury has these pulses where it slows down, does a retrograde, then speeds up and moves through a couple of signs, then slows down. And we're at this like speedy point in the Mercury cycle. And in Gemini, that's pretty speedy. So that happens. And then Tuesday, Mars changes signs and Venus stations retrograde. And this is on the West Coast. So it's kind of like Tuesday, Wednesday. So let's break this down. Mars moves from Aquarius into Pisces, and this will be through June 27th. And so Mars is an action planet. Pisces is a big old body of water that
let's just hang out. Let's just be.
Let's just feel. Let's just feel. Let's just flow.
Let's embody.
Mars is like, it's not Mars's favorite place to be. Let's just put it that way. And Mars is also starting to slow down. Okay. Mars will be here in Pisces through June 27th. So there's likely to activate a lot of feelings. I think that a useful way to work with a Mars in Pisces would be to use that kind of night-like, and I don't mean nighttime, but I mean like a knight on a quest, Knight, energy of Mars to create really good energetic and emotional boundaries for yourself so that you're not acting from this overwhelm of feeling and energy. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm Pisces, so I tend, when all this Pisces stuff goes on, I'm like, yeah, I just feel comfortable, but then I see everyone else around falling apart. So.
Yeah, you don't mind it, the Pisces energy.
But I do see it really affects people. The emotional, it's like it makes people all like soft and wistful and kind of mushy. Yeah, mushy. Mushy.
Mushy humans. So that's a journey. That's a journey for all of us. And then a little while later, then we finally have Venus stationing retrograde. So this is the retrograde from 21 to 5 degrees Gemini. So that's what the territory in your natal chart. And the retrograde happens through June 25th. So it's about 40 days. And the Venus retrograde is such a fascinating cycle. And I will be teaching on Venus cycles and the Venus retrograde more extensively in a masterclass this month, if anybody wants to know, because I could talk about Venus for the next hour and we just don't have that time. I'm already going really slow with the lack of sleep. But the Venus cycle is quite magical. Venus only goes retrograde in 5 signs. So you have this 5 areas of your chart where Venus will go retrograde in your lifetime. And sometimes she shifts a sign, so it might like bleed over into another, sign change. But in general, in a 100-year period, Venus is only going retrograde in 5 signs. And every 8 years, she's in the same sign. So what we have is
wow.
pattern. 8 years ago in 2012, Venus was retrograde in Gemini. Not only that, 2012 was a very special Venus retrograde, as was 2004. And that's because Venus did this really cool thing that she only does every 100 years or so, which is transit over the sun that we can see from Earth with the right eyewear, of course. Do you remember the Venus transit of 2012?
Oh my God, I do.
I do too.
I think
Tell
I think that's like literally the first post I ever did on Instagram. Like if I scroll all the way back to LOTUSWEI.
June 5th, 2012, baby.
Wasn't that? Yeah, you could look and see in not microscopes, telescopes.
Roll it back. Are you talking like LOTUSWEI? Because the LOTUSWEI account, that was the first.
Yeah.
Okay, you must check that. And then I want to see it. Tag me in that post. I'll make you do the work.
Go way back there.
You do the work, or somebody can do the work and tag me. So Venus was very visible. 2012 was a pivotal year, right? The Mayan calendar ended that year. I mean, it was a big year of shifts, and Venus was visible in the underworld, in this transformative place. And so we really are, this is 8 years after that. These are 8-year cycles in the sign, in your chart. What are the themes? What are the things? Like really take time and reflect. It took me a while to kind of remember what 2012 was about for me, but once I dialed into it, I was like, holy shit, okay, it all makes sense. What's happening now in my life? And that's a very personal thing, the Venus retrograde. And the other cool thing about those 5 signs in 8-year cycles is that it makes a star, a 5-pointed star in your chart. So in the retrograde, Venus and the sun make a cazimi, which is called a Venus star point. And these are like really potent degrees of magic, and that's happening in June when they make their conjunction. But the whole 40-day retrograde, when Venus moves from evening sky to morning sky, makes the star point, begins this review process of all the Venus topics: love, money, values, through the mercurial lens of Gemini, questioning, curiosity, shape-shifting, right? It's really, I love it, I'm very Venusian though. So more to come on that next month, of course. And again, I'm teaching a masterclass on May 11th, Venus cycle and Venus retrograde, and also working a lot with the Venus cycle in the next session of Goddess Codes, which also starts at the end of the month. So the retrograde in your charts, are there any planets in those degrees? What house is it, right? What is this about for you? As a collective, of course, we'll be reviewing in a collective way. That North Node is also in Gemini, but it's also very personal. And, Venus is social. Venus wants to bring people together. Gemini is social. It's like a hummingbird that wants to buzz around all the flowers. We're currently in a phase of social distancing, right? So
sounds like in May we're coming out. At least 20 states are. Right?
I mean,
look at all that buzzing around.
I mean, yeah. I want out, and I don't know what's happening, I know.
I think at this point right now there's 20 states in phase 1. So by May, who knows? But at least half of us should be cooking.
May 15th, maybe. Yeah. I mean, this is happening. Anyway, I like it. So it's pretty key.
Exciting.
It's key. It's important. What elixirs would you suggest for the Venus retrograde, now that I've kind of spoken about some of its magic and what kind of support? And well, maybe is the flower evolution?
Flower evolution. Yeah.
Goodness.
Yes, flower evolution.
Would that be a good one for the Venus retrograde?
I mean, it's cacao flower. I mean, I don't know if it makes total sense with the Venus retrograde.
Well, then what shall we use? And we can talk about cacao later. I said cacao to cacao. Full bloom? I put Katie on the spot.
I mean, I guess I just don't have my finger on really what's happening. I get it. Shape-shifting, questioning, curious about love, money, values,
Well, what's happening in 2012 for
social.
you?
I just,
Besides starting social networking, third house on
mm,
Instagram, right? What was it besides like, oh, we got to get on social media? Like, what was it that drove that first post, like that first image, that first connection with others, right? I want to share the beauty. I want to share this information, right? I don't know.
the only thing it's like 2012, man, that's like a big dark hole. I don't remember
You
what
can
happened.
find it. You'll find it. You'll be
But
amazed when you
but
like
you're right.
thing.
You're right. It was like 2 years after the business really started online. And so I imagine that's when all the social media stuff kicked. And I started spending a ton of time on Instagram building relationships.
Mm-hmm. Building relationships, very
Mhm.
Venus and Gemini. Social.
Super.
Social.
Yes. Super prolific.
In any event, well, what kind of, I'm sorry, I'm like, find us an elixir or a spray or something to
Y-
help us facilitate this within ourselves, this review and
mhm.
repatterning for a more authentic expression of that.
Okay, perfect. I was just going to say too, I think that was also the time that like Facebook became a little less popular and Instagram, came in, and not like that it's anything to do with the channel, the social media channel, but I found really interesting that there was this like sense of who I'm supposed to be connected with and my past transitioned into who I want to be connected with, and like artists and creatives and cool people, and suddenly you could like get connected with people that you wanted to be connected with, right? Instead of like people you're like, oh god, my high school, fourth grade, I don't know, whatever. um so when I look at cacao flower, which is all about like going right to the heart of the matter and really attaining a new level of authenticity that comes from a new awareness around self-care. So like gone are the days of self-sacrifice and not eating at the right times. Oh, I have to go to the bathroom, but you know what? I'm just going to wait. And then hours later, you're like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, right? Or I need to drink more water. The more we can support ourselves and allow nourishment, allow is like the big theme. We can allow expansion, we can allow receiving abundantly, we can allow ourselves to create this new future, leaving stuff from the past behind that we don't want and moving into what we do want. Especially after this whole weird time where people have been able to like look at the lives they've created and say, these are the things that I really want to carry forward. These are the things I really love about my life, or these are the things I want to expand into. Cacao flower. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, cacao. Cacao to cacao. Stop spending your time and energy in things that you don't want to do anymore. And it's also like the Instagram, the shift to Instagram as a platform back in the day before Facebook owned it, but still it's it's a visual. It's the visual, it's beauty, like it's imagery. It comes in. Whereas Facebook, I mean, you can post a picture, but it's a lot of words that kind of come by and articles, and you have to, it's just like busy. And Instagram, even though there's the algorithms, even though it's changed, like I remember early Instagram, it was just like you could curate a feed that just pleased you so much. And it was in real time back then, there where the algorithms weren't there in the way. So it was like, what I love and what I share that what I see and what I love. And there was just this beauty and connection thing, which is so Venusian, and using technology, which is so Gemini, right?
I see the similar type of thing happening now on TikTok where people feel like, oh wow, I can really be myself. I know.
TikTok.
Yeah, it's coming. It's here.
I
You
thought it
can
was for the
create,
young people. I guess
you know
China,
what?
yeah.
Everything's always for the young people in the beginning. You can add music, you can do video clips, you can do editing, you can make it your own. It's like, you know how when Instagram first started, it was like, I can make it how I want it to be.
I
When
remember Instagram stories first started. It was like, what are these stories? Not everybody
right.
story, right?
And then it starts to get a little stale and stagnant and tight. And then there's like a new channel, and people are like, TikTok, oh my gosh, we can do crazy things again. And the algorithms are still alive and cooking and well, and not all like clamped down and you can't see anything.
All right, so maybe I'll look at it. It's just so oh, TikTok. It's so funny. I don't know why. What I see is, I don't know, y'all remember those little kitty cat clocks with the tails that TikTok? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing with TikTok. Is that their logo?
As long as you don't get hooked into consuming, if you see it as like a blank canvas to create from, right? If you consume it, you could get lost for hours.
You know, I think that I learned this in a class with Elena Brower, actually. And I think she talked a lot about, I'm pretty sure it was her. She spoke about with Instagram how she'll create before she consumes. So when you go onto Instagram, and same with TikTok, like, what am I going to create to share? Right? This is this Venus desire to share through this technological venue, and then maybe have some consumption. But you start from creation. I think it was her. If you're listening, Elena. All right, TikTok, cacao flower, anything else? And for people who aren't yet in flower evolution, what's going to support them? Is it the full bloom anointing oil?
Full bloom anointing oil. Yeah, it's about letting go of any old beliefs or patterns or, self-limitations so that you can take a big, giant leap in your personal growth.
Maybe we put it on our 5th chakras because of the communication.
Yeah.
Oh, it smells so minty. What's in there?
It does have spearmint.
Oh, I love that. What else is in there?
Lavender, sweet orange, nutmeg, coriander.
Nutmeg. Ooh, neat. Neat.
Sexy nutmeg.
Do you have saffron in anything?
No, girl, saffron is so
I have a saffron
expensive.
essential oil that I got at Durga Interiors in Vancouver. Oh my God,
I have some.
Have you been to Durga Interiors?
Mm-mm.
Oh, any Vancouverians listening, and you know what an amazing store that is. When you go to Vancouver next time, please go. You will be so happy. It's amazing. He has the most amazing essential oils that he sources. And so I have a little tiny bit of saffron. It's pretty, it's good for meditation. It's very cooling. What do you think? I know I'm segueing. This is what happens with the Gemini, Mercury and Gemini person talking to you.
I don't know. I'm on the spot. I'm just thinking that saffron is the stamen of the crocus. And I love saffron. We have some saffron. It's so expensive though. Oh my goodness.
It's so expensive. It's so beautiful. It's such a laborious process to pull out those little stamens. So it shouldn't be cheap. You don't want cheap saffron.
Saffron oat milk would be nice.
Oh, okay. Just warm it up with some saffron. Anything else? Full bloom elixir? Okay. Gemini retrograde. See how we just segued off into a tangent, my friends? Gemini, welcome. Welcome to more Gemini coming soon. Okay. So we have the station retrograde. And then on Thursday, it's the last quarter moon in Aquarius. And that is a square between the sun and the moon. The last quarter moon is a letting go process. The sun is in Taurus in the body. The moon is in Aquarius in the mind. It's fixed energy. It's stuck energy. So we're in a Venus review. We're starting to shake up and let go of thoughts and beliefs that don't serve us anymore. And under that waning square, we have our third planet stationing retrograde this week, which is Jupiter. Jupiter stations retrograde in Capricorn, and this retrograde is through September 12th. And so with Jupiter retrograde, it's just these outer planet and these slower moving planets, they go retrograde every year for a good 4 or 5 months. So it's not as personal as a Venus retrograde, a Mars retrograde, or a Mercury retrograde, all of which we have in 2020. It's a special year for you personally. This is a more collective energy, but in your own chart, Jupiter is a lot about expansion, growth, opportunities, your desire for all of those things and for the wisdom that comes from that more than the shiny gold that comes. You know what I mean? The difference between like an opportunity and, I don't know, opportunistic, shall we say? Yeah, so there's a retrograde happening, and the same day we have the sun making a trine to Pluto in Capricorn. And that's very powerful flow of energy that can feel potent, and powerful, but it can also create power conflicts and struggles in people depending on how they handle that kind of connection. Pluto's no joke. It may be small but mighty. Pluto, that's a big week right there, right? 3 planets stationing retrograde, so everything's really slow, right? Energetically, all these planets are moving super slow. It's like Mars in Pisces, perhaps it's a water ballet. I don't know why, but that's what I'm seeing. And then we finish out the week with Friday. Mercury makes a little connection to Chiron in Aries, Mercury in Gemini. And so this can mean, I don't know, I look at this as a mental healing opportunity, because Chiron's the wounded healer and a sextile energy is like a little 4-leaf clover. And so perhaps there's a way that you can bring some healing to some kind of thoughts, processes that you don't want to believe anymore about yourself that are just awful, right? As Mercury works with Venus to help repattern this part of your chart. And then on Sunday, the sun makes a trine to Jupiter, right? So Pluto, Jupiter, there's just like a lot of Earth energy, and Jupiter's other than the sun, it has the largest magnetic field of any planet. So it's got a lot of power and a lot of energy. And that's that's going to have people feeling like, woo, perhaps a little buzzy or uplifted, or just, like that. That's what I have to say.
That sounds good.
I think it's a nice way to end the week. I mean, it's a crunchy week, and then maybe if you kind of, hold the pose and don't fall down, don't trip yourself up too much, you get
a nice bubbly sparkling water with lime and joy juice and chlorophyll and strawberries.
No tequila. I like tequila. I don't understand. It must be Mars and Pisces. Anyway, all right, what's next? Week 3, more Gemini energy, my friends. Wednesday, Mercury's day. The sun moves into Gemini, and it's Gemini season for real, as if we didn't have enough things going on in Gemini. What is this? This is May 20th, Mercury's day. Mercury's in Gemini. Mercury rules Gemini. Wow, there's a lot of things. The sun, Mercury, Venus, Hygeia, Vesta, the North Node, all in Gemini. All of a sudden, this part of your chart that was kind of empty for a while is filled with celestials doing all kinds of things. And the sun will, of course, move through this part of your chart for 30 days. It does it every year. Every year, the sun streams through the windows of your Gemini house and reveals...
Sounds like a circus.
No.
Trapeze artists and elephants. And
I don't know about your Gemini house, but there may be some elephants in there, but maybe some trapeze artists. But it's time to, kind of clean up the house, dust the house, visit the topics of this house. And they're being pressurized by additional energy, the North Node, Venus retrograde, and Mercury. So the Gemini, all of the things that I've said about Gemini are being highlighted by the sun, and that makes that part of your chart even more active, right? Like a circus, Katie says, but better a circus than a shit show. And that's on Wednesday. And then Venus on that same day makes her second square to Neptune. So we talked about that at the beginning of the show. And now Venus is retrograde and really kind of like face to face in a review mode of perhaps things that didn't quite work out. Or what can sometimes happen for a Venus retrograde, I've heard, although I've yet to experience it, is that old lovers pop up from the past. And you get all caught up in the like, oh, it's them again. Remember how it was? And you might even have this little retrograde affair or something, but it doesn't pan out. Don't make any big decisions around love, money, or haircuts, unless it's what you were doing in 2012 and you loved it. Maybe you kind of review the things, but you really want to if you're going to make renovations around beauty stuff, you want it to last. You don't want to do something and then when Venus goes direct and you're like, oh my God, what happened? So mind that. But this square is the second one, and it's definitely, I don't know, it feels nostalgic to me, oh, how things used to be. And then Friday, Mercury and Venus, so it's May 22nd, make a conjunction in Gemini. So the mind and the heart come together. It's the new moon also. Ooh, let's look at that chart. Friday's a big day. It's Venus day. It's a new moon in Gemini, and it's a Mercury Venus retrograde conjunction. And yeah, there's a lot of air energy all of a sudden in the chart that hasn't been there, right? And it's an early new moon. It's at 2 degrees Gemini. So it's trining Pallas Athena and Saturn in Aquarius, and also Juno in Libra. So there's this grand air trine between the new moon, how you like to do relationships and partnerships, and kind of like wisdom and responsibility, all in air. So there's a lot of mind activity going on and planting seeds. For the lunar cycle, you're really working with the nervous system, with brain chemistry, with air energy, and communication. These are all good things to consider as you craft your new moon intentions with this new moon chart. And Mercury is making a square to Neptune, which it can really bring about some funny information, or it can help you dissolve boundaries, right? It goes one way or the other with Neptune. It feels really good, or it feels really overwhelming and confusing. So depending on how you run your brain chemistry, depending on what your Gemini house looks like you're going to be having a very unique experience. Everybody will be. It's a lot of mental stimulation, a lot of technology overload. Hopefully that there will be some movement maybe back into society to kind of spread that energy around, because I feel like our nervous systems, even though we're having a rest and a break, so much technological use and screen time. It's really kind of, it's a lot, I feel. Do you feel like it's a lot?
Yes, and I also see, like in my neighborhood, for example, I've never seen so many people biking and walking. It's like unbelievable how much time people are spending outside. I see like families that look like bike gangs, right? They're just all out. It's so sweet.
Rolling through town.
So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of tech use, a ton of tech use, and also people are also trying to get outside more, which is great.
Well, spring and summer, we were talking about that. We started out the episode talking about that, the temperature changes and things like that. And same here where I live, because there's a lot of, natural beauty here. There's beaches and trails, and while some of them are closed, some of them are still open.
Oh my God, where you live is like paradise. Okay, if anyone is not following Kristina Wingeier on social media, every time you go to her stories, it's like flowers and bees and ocean and sky. And I always know when I go to your story feed, it's just going to be like chillax. It's so wonderful to look at.
I like to share the beauty. I get a lot of feedback from people that it helps them, especially when people can't access it, and that it just brings joy and pleasure. And I love it. I ended up here in a very funny way, but I'm really glad I'm here. It's a good place to be, Central Coast, California. It's a hidden gem for this Gemini. So we have that new moon. What do you think about new moon intentions? Or, what might you do for a Gemini moon? Or is there an elixir? Or are you guys doing anything virtually, since there's nothing happening in person? Like, what's going on? What's going on? That's what Gemini says. What's going on?
I have no idea. I've gotten so into like taking each day by day. Like literally, it feels like on that day we decide. On today, we decide what today is. We're not planning any more than out than like
we don't remember. So we just make it up.
So when we're there, we'll know. I don't know. I'm waiting for borders to open up so we can travel.
This girl wants to travel. Well, how about just with all that I was saying about all the air energy and the mind and all of that, like, are there any elixirs or sprays that could be supportive, helping people?
Yeah, I mean, something like quiet mind or inspired action, if you just want like a quick like mist or something to sort of like either settle all the mental energy or be able to focus it into one point.
I like inner peace too.
Inner peace, yeah, it's like inner peace is like your feet hit the ground, grounded, stable, like nothing could stress you out.
What is that? Is that
Yeah, there is vetiver in there. You have a good nose. I've been rubbing inner peace on my
vetiver
lower
and
back.
lavender? And it's such juniper, radium, magic. Magic in a bottle, people. Yeah. Okay. So did you actually? Oh, I missed. I'm like, did she say anything? We're almost done. Thank God. I need to take a nap. Okay. So new moon. Happy new moon. Venus retrograde, and then on Sunday, Mars and Uranus make a little tiny connection by sextile. So this is Pisces and Taurus energy. So that's the feelings and the body. And remember, we were talking about maybe energetic and emotional boundaries with Mars and how that's going to help protect the vitality of the body when you're not absorbing everything that everybody is throwing at you, or that's just kind of in the energy, in the field, to really clear yourself out in embodiment practices. That's good stuff. And then week 4, Mercury enters Cancer. So Mercury makes a second sign change this month in the merry month of May. This is Thursday, May 28th. However, Mercury will be in Cancer through August 4th because June brings us our second Mercury retrograde of the year that will happen entirely in the sign of Cancer. So, and I do think that there's a Cancer eclipse involved, but we have to wait till next month to learn about that, folks. So Mercury moves from the mind into the feelings, right? The Mercury retrogrades, well, we're not in the retrograde yet, but we're preparing for it because Mercury is going into Cancer. They're all about the feels this year. They're all mostly in water. And so with Mercury moving into Cancer at the end of the month, you're going to want to consider that part of your chart because Mercury will be there for a while. And how do you think about what you feel, right? Sometimes we judge ourselves for our feelings, right? Cancer energy wants to connect emotionally so much. So that gives Cancer so much joy and pleasure to feel emotionally connected and nourished, right? So that is something to consider in your charts. Mercury just goes from a place of logic to a place of not so much logic, more feelings and less words, more feelings, okay? But this could help us get in touch with our emotional needs. Maybe we can learn how to communicate them in a more effective way, but it might be a little funny for a while. And then the last aspect that I have is May 29th, and that's the first quarter moon in Virgo. So we've moved into the first waxing square between the sun and the moon. The lunar cycle is working all around the mutable signs for the Gemini new moon lunar cycle. And the energy is one of sun in Gemini, kind of questioning logic and analyzing things. And then Virgo, which is also quite analytical. There's a tension there between something about analysis and there's probably some kind of new, I don't know, flow or system or something that you're going to want to feel like you need to change, maybe that's going to make things more efficient. It feels like, I mean, I don't know, that's how it feels when I feel into it. And the same day, the sun makes a sextile to Chiron. And so again, with this energy with the wounded healer, it's really easy with the first moon in Virgo to get really self-critical. Virgo can be very self-critical because it's kind of this perfectionist energy. And instead of being perfect, can you just be with, in a more graceful way, like make the changes that you might need to change without all the like negative self-talk, and kind of lean into the healing that can come from, okay, I'm going to change it now. I'm going to make that shift and I can feel where I need to do it. It's a little edgy. Maybe it's a little uncomfortable, but yeah, it's time. And I don't need to make a big deal out of it or beat myself up for not having done it sooner, right? So that's it. We end the month getting ready to go into eclipse season. Not quite there yet, but we will be there for real in June, and we will have our first very, very subtle eclipse on June 5th. But because it's so subtle, we're not technically in eclipse season in May. It really happens when we move over. So we'll get into the eclipses, the rest of the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde next month for June. It's quarter two is pretty spicy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I see themes of water ballet, holding yoga poses for too long, followed by a reward of bubbly drinks.
Oh my God, I love it.
In the beginning, it was about sex and shitting. Pitbull with a bone. That's a lot.
I'm really curious as you're going to translate and weave that into some themes. But it's a month of shifts, right? The node shift. Venus is retrograde. 3 planets are retrograde. Mercury moves quickly, makes signs, changes. Mars changes signs. Like there's a lot of change.
Okay, so interpreting what you're saying, then I would say how we feel about things, love things, value things is really being under review. How we act, how we move, how we think is all changing. And then with the North Node changing, it's basically like the whole sort of overview of where we're going as a collective is also shifting gears.
Yes, exactly. And with all that Gemini energy and the energy of shifting, I would just consider shape shifting as something to meditate on or to experience, because it really can be. Gemini can easily change a costume. It can easily go into another role. It's very flexible. It's very adaptable, right? It's mutable energy. And so, in pop astrology, Gemini gets a bad reputation because they say we're fickle. They say that we change our mind all the
Two-faced.
time. Two-faced. I mean, oh, two-faced, 6 arms. I'm a goddess. What are you going to do? But maybe 3 faces. I don't know. And so it's really this ability to adapt, right? We talked
To
about
like decide how you want to live your life, right?
exactly. I'll speak of a wonderful Gemini to consider as a performer, which is Prince. Okay. How many phases did he go through in his life of the way he presented himself, the styles of music that he was singing? He just constantly evolved and redesigned himself throughout his entire life. And he had a unique sound current, right? And he was somebody you couldn't define. I mean, that song Controversy, he's like, I'm not black or white, I'm not straight or gay, I am what I am. And that's what Gemini is saying. Like, you don't have to pin it down. It shifts, it moves. And there's a strength in that, because we're also holding the poses, right? We're also being challenged to hold a certain frequency. So where do you need to hold and where do you need to shift and transform? And it's both happening. That's a both and, not an either or, which is also very Gemini. Instead of either or, we go for the both and, the polarity. So
love that. Okay. Just looking over the notes. There's so much Gemini.
It's so much Gemini. All of a sudden, there's so much air in the chart. It really wasn't there until recently. It's really changing big time. And Saturn moving into Aquarius kind of shifted that. And then Mars moved into Aquarius. Of course, Juno and a couple of asteroids have been in Gemini being in air signs a little longer, but with the nodes, with Mercury, with Venus, with the sun, with the moon, lots of Gemini.
It feels like a little bird in spring.
Pretty much.
A lot of activity.
Yeah, hummingbird.
Yeah.
And what do hummingbirds seek? They seek beauty, they seek joy. It's also very Venus, right? It's the 5th month. 5 is a sacred number to Venus. We talked about the 5-pointed star that Venus makes in her beautiful dance with the sun from our point of view. And you Google the Venus cycle and you can watch this animation of the sun and Venus and Earth, and it creates this beautiful rose pattern. Have you ever seen that video? Oh, it's so gorgeous. It's just this rosette that emerges from the movements and dance of the sun and Venus from our perspective. And it's such a precise, it's connected to the golden ratio. It's the Fibonacci sequence. There's a lot of really beautiful, sacred geometrical energy happening. So weave your sacred geometry, friends. It's time.
Happy May Day. Okay, weaving your sacred geometry. Enjoy May 2020. Thanks for being with us, Kristina. And if people want to find more of you,
KristinaWingeier.com. Kristina Wingeier on Instagram. And as I said, I'm teaching about Venus this month, May 11th. And I'm also be working intensely with the Venus cycle as morning star in the next session of Goddess Codes, which is a 9-month program that begins at the end of May. Really excited to continue that work. That's pretty powerful stuff. And then the Moon Club. People like the lunar astrology and want to hear a lot about those new moon, full moon, and quarter moon charts, and have a sweet live call every month with a lovely group of moonbeams. That is something that is ongoing as well. Yeah. And then maybe TikTok. I don't know. Maybe when the sun moves into Gemini, I'll be inspired to go and TikTok.
You'll be lured in.
I know. It's that water ballet. I'm being pulled toward the center.
And again, if you are interested in joining the Flower Revolution, this is the month where we really are making it available to everyone. So if you're interested in the cacao flower.
Are you going to reveal on that, or not revealing how that's happening yet?
Yeah, I mean, I would say by May, it will be real clear. We're working on all the systems right now. And that's like a week from now. So yeah,
so
once the podcast
easier to get these elixirs is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I want more people having them for sure. Yeah. It's an amazing program. I've been there from the beginning. That night blooming cirrus.
Yeah.
Which you guys just flower porned on your feed the other day. I don't know where you were with all those gorgeous cactuses. I think you took the picture. I mean, I wanted to dive into that flower and just swim around in the pollen so much. It really was pulling me in. I felt like a hummingbird or a bee. So beautiful. You're genius, my friend. Happy
spring if you're in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern, happy fall. We're moving. We're shaking. Things are shaking.
Ciao.
Enjoy May. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to The Flower Lounge. I'm Katie Hess, and we'll be releasing a new podcast every Wednesday. If you like what you heard, or you know someone who might be touched by our conversation, share it with them. And don't forget to subscribe. To find out what your favorite flowers mean about you, take the quiz at LOTUSWEI.com.